Hey everybody, Edo here, and today I want to talk about 5 games I absolutely love. Like, top games for me that suffer or people think have analysis paralysis issues, or have talked about analysis paralysis, and or mind melting, or just brain burn, or whatever. And it's a common complaint, and it's almost always a pejorative. It's almost always something that people think is bad. Oh, that game has got AP or analysis paralysis, or like... I did this video in some parts because this feedback's come up with the 100 Torii, which is a game that Scott Caputo designed that I published, which I adore. But also because when I think about these games, the ones I'm going to be talking about, like, they've either somehow solved it, or are just so great it transcends it, or what, but it just works and it doesn't bug me at all. Like, I feel like there are games that I've played where the thinkiness of it and all of the options don't hurt your brain and don't feel good, but I feel like when your choices are engaging and interesting and delightful and fun, that's not the case. Certainly other people are going to have other opinions, and I'm super interested. Like, specifically, I like to hear about games in the comments that people are like, I love this game, even though, or because of how it has a lot of potential for AP, or people get AP, or just, you know, like whatever, like that idea of that game. So I want to bring up a number of them. And these are all games that, I mean, perhaps people might say, well, these aren't AP games. I mean, I don't know, but these are games I've heard regular people complain about that problem. All right, so in no particular order, but they're all pretty different, and they're all I mean, these are games I have here because I still play them, right? Okay, number 1, Ricochet Robots. Like, if there was a game that is the epitome of analysis and like plus race against the clock, it's this game, and that's actually one of the things that I think helps it. If you're not familiar with Ricochet Robots, you have a big board with robots, and essentially there's a target location, and you have to move the robots bouncing around, bouncing off each other on reflectors and things like that to get to that spot. You need to get the red robot to that spot, and the player who can do it the fastest in the least amount of spots wins. And the trick, though, is, and you'll notice the game says 1 to infinity players. Actually, I should play this over Zoom. That haven't occurred to me. But like, the way it works is no one's allowed to touch anything. You have the board in front of you. You have all the objects, and in your head, you just need to like work out the ping-ponging of these robots and where they're going to go. And it's super brain burny, and like what you're trying to do, and then somebody will scream a number, and they'll say, I can do it in 4 moves. Oh, I can do it in 14 moves. And then somebody will be looking, and then they get to go unless somebody says they can better them. Be like, no, I can do it in 10. No, I can do it in 9. And then when everyone's like, I don't believe you, then the player who can do it in 9 gets to do it, and if they succeed, they get a chit. If they don't, they don't. The reason why I think this works is a couple. 1, it's like communal paralysis, right? Everyone is having it at the exact same time, so inherently it's okay. And then it's also, because you're not, I think a lot of people complain, I think a lot of people who complain about analysis paralysis, in fact, are complaining about other people. They're like, I hate that player gets stuck playing and I'm waiting. This game certainly doesn't have that problem. And I also think because it's timed, you know, not timed, but like there's that race factor of like who's going to call it out first. I think that helps it. But I can't think of a game, like you play this game for 10 rounds and you're just like, all right, I'm done. I'm out. I'm done. But I think it's a fantastic experience and a fantastic game. So number 1, or just one of the 5, Ricochet Robots. All right. And this is an old game. Actually, some of these are older games. All right, next. 5 Tribes by Mr. Cathala. 5 Tribes is just a spectacular game. And once it's like taking, it's Mancala and bringing a Euro-style game to it. But basically, there's a grid, and you're picking up groups of tribes, groups of people, meeples, and then dropping them. But as you drop them, you can go in different orders, and where you end is what you pick up, and what you pick up is the bonus you get, and along the way, the colors you're dropping have impact to what somebody else might get when they're going in there, and all that while there are the djinns that you're getting bonus points, and there's other players, and there's these different objectives, and there's, you know, like because it's point salad Euro style, so the amount of considerations, like, and then like it's double, it's both which pile am I gonna draw, and once I grab it, I'm stuck. It's like chess. Once I grab it, I can't ungrab, and then once I have it, how am I gonna lay it out? And maybe it's 3, maybe there's 5. For sure, a lot of players can get stuck in the options you have. And I think that is caused a lot of people to walk away from this game. But for me, I think the example of why this one works so well is the components, the look, all of the ways the decisions are interlaced, and the bidding for turn order, and how important turn order is in the game, and then just how each of the little meeples does different things. Like, it all adds to the complexity, but it all adds to the satisfaction of play. And so you do have that burniness, but you have that burniness in a game that really offers satisfaction. I actually think of all the games we have here, this one does the least to solve the problem. Like, I think this one doesn't really have anything special to it other than it just being a fantastic game. But clear icons, clear cards, clear colors, clear shapes, all of the things that could add to the problem, it's a way, and it's really the decision tree, and I think it works. And it's a game I absolutely love playing. So that is 5 tribes. Let's go smaller. So this is Strife, Legacy of Eternals, and this is by Chris Ham. And in Strife is a game where it's a perfect information hand game where both players have a set of heroes, and you're playing them to thwart your opponent. And let me give wizard and ranger and warrior. But in particular, it's a game where we have 0 to 7 or 8 or whatever it is. I haven't played this. 0 to 9 maybe. Yeah, I think it's probably 0 to 9. And we are looking to basically get the highest power. So you can think of Legacy of the Confrontation has the same sort of thing. What makes this game so burny is that when you cards have an ability when they're played, and then they have a secondary ability that also triggers or can trigger, and so you're like dealing with what's my opponent playing, what am I playing, and what am I going to play next, and how is that going to affect what my opponent plays next. And the game has, you got like 9 cards, right? So like there's an extent to the permutations, but even within those cards, or 10 cards, the permutations are through the roof. And certainly if it was twice as many cards or something, like, it'd be too much. But the simplicity of the power resolution combined with the complexity of the main ability and the ascendant ability, I don't remember what it's called, is fantastic. And like, you'll sit there and you're just like, am I gonna... It's the Princess Bride poison thing. It's like, well, if I do this and he's gonna do that, did he do that? And what do you think I did? You think I did that? It twists your head into knots. It really does. But it works. It's got this incredible... One of my favorite mechanics for a little mini mechanic is the Fate die, which is like a tiebreaker die, but the person who has it, if I could get it out of here, can like hand it over in order to break the tie. But when you hand it over, you increment it up and it becomes more valuable. So the value of breaking ties goes up. And it's just an incredible... This mechanic is super sweet. Not really too burny, but like a really nice dynamic next to the burny. And I think that's what makes this game work. But this is a small game you may not have played, but like super, super amazing. And actually, Christopher Ham ended up designing Legendary Creatures, which is the pencil first game, and he, they're very different games, but that's sort of the complexity of choice and order and approach that's in this is in Legendary Creatures in spades. So continuing to step backwards in time, maybe the truth here is that some of these games are older because to be a game that has AP issues or potential for it and stay on the shelf has to be great. And so these are the games that have stuck. I don't think I was looking around and I was like, should I do a top 10? And I was like, well, I don't really have 10 here that fit this category. So I'd have to just go pick other ones that I've no longer kept. And I didn't know if that broke it, right? Okay. This. Torrez. If you haven't had the opportunity to play Torrez or to find this game is phenomenal. It's got a ton of pieces, but basically you're building up towers or buildings in wherever this is in Torrez or wherever place this is. I'm sure it's set in some king's castle. It doesn't have a locale, but basically you're playing action cards and building up buildings and building up different levels. It's like what was that game? I have it somewhere in here. I don't know. I'm not going to remember the name of it. The head versus head game by Roxley. Why am my brain? But anyway, it'll come to me. But so you're building up towers and putting units on, and you're scoring different levels, and you're moving things down to the ground and up and comparing it to other levels, and it's this tower building, point scoring game. And the level of complexity on scoring opportunities and sort of comparing to other players is super dense. It is super dense and super crazy. And you're thinking about what you're going to do, what they're going to do, what your plan is, what their plan is, how to min-max, and people can steal from each other. But I think the beauty here is the visual landscape helps sort of ground it in reality, I think, as is the action cards, while, pretty broad and they tip their standard, lots of icons, not any word type of cards. But your action selection's pretty straightforward, and you can learn your options. So most of the burn comes from the tactical space and not really you thinking about sort of cards and what you're going to get. It's really focused burn on what you're doing, and it doesn't spread. But this is a game I know a lot of people have walked away from. But boy, I just think it's spectacular. And I just love this puzzle. It's in some ways, what's the difference between a puzzly game and a brain-burny game? And I think it has something to do with the options and decision space. Right? You can have something that feels puzzly, but if the decision space is pretty limited, then it doesn't feel as burny as, again, Five Tribes is just a great example of not only what am I picking up, where am I going, what's the order in which I drop the things out of my hand, what's everyone else doing, do I want to go left and up or down and up and around, your range of options is so robust, and every variant has such clear impact to what you're going to be doing that it just sort of grinds you down. And again, that's why I don't know if Five Tribes actually solves it other than just making a beautiful, fantastic, incredibly balanced game. Whereas I think in Torrez you have the action cards in the 3D space. Strife has sort of condensed it down, but still has that depth to it. Ricochet Robots just sort of rips the cover off. But I think it makes a difference. And so the last game I wanted to mention is the one that inspired the video, the 100 Torii. And so in the 100 Torii, it's a tile-laying game where you're building out a garden in Japan, and on those gardens there's a number of little icons, and what you're doing is you're creating a path to different icons, and based on the path you score that icon. However, it has to be the shortest path to that icon, so you might think there's this great move, but if there's a closer icon you have to take the shorter move. But then also there are the gates, the Torii, which give you bonuses of duplicate icons, duplicate items, tokens, or ones you don't have, depending on the color of the Torii or the gate. And so the reason I think a lot of people have mentioned sort of AP in this game, not as much as, say, Five Tribes, but it's come up in a lot of the comments, is as initially it's a sort of a condensed board, but as it builds out, there's a huge amount of optionality and a huge amount of directions you can go. And it layers in a variety of point scoring methods, sort of like Five Tribes, but nowhere near as complex, as well as some player powers, so not player, but you can hire folks to, or hire folks, characters to assist you. And when you do, they can let you play 2 tiles or double something, or, you can place a character down to block an icon and do a variety of things. And that opportunity space, that availability space to you is really big. So what does this game do that I love it so much that I wanted to develop it and publish it, but also it works for me, is there's this interesting rubber banding on value where as things get longer, because of the way the icons, you have to have the shortest path and the way players are playing, you sort of have areas of like lots of value and richness to harvest, but then as more people play in that space, it sort of reduces, like it grows and then it sort of codifies. And then people sort of move in other directions, and I feel like that opportunity space gets closed down. And because, and this is for me at least, because there's so many different ways to score and pull together points, you can get to a point where you have 2 options which are pretty close, and they both, maybe one of them is absolutely perfect, but because of the space to score and the different ways to achieve in this game, in the 100 Torii, it doesn't, from my perspective, feel too bad to be like, I don't know if this is the top move I could possibly do, but I know this isn't like the top 10, and that's probably fine. I think for me, and it's got a short play time, that's the piece where it helps loosen it up. It's a casual, lighter weight, and that sense of, hey, everything's getting me value, and I'm like sort of thinking about the precision of value. There's a little bit of softness from my perspective where it's not as big of a deal, whereas in some other games, it just feels like a wrong move will just be a crushing blow. Like, it'll be like, if I don't make this call right, this whole game's over, and based on this moment, one bad choice, I might as well stop playing. I think this game does a really good job of not having that problem. Actually, I don't think any of these do. That might be the secret of Five Tribes, in that sense of Five Tribes. It doesn't feel like punishing. Like, I think the more stakes on complex choices breaks your brain. So anyway, I love all of these games, and in general, I don't mind games that make you think, but I'm super interested, in particular, in the comments. What game do you love that you feel has this kind of thought space, paralysis space? And actually, that's part of why you like it. Not just like something you're like, well, I hate that part, but I like the rest of the game. Like, how does it enrich the play experience? I think all of these games are better because it gets that chunky thought process. But anyway, so these were 5 games that have some AP that I absolutely adore. Okay, thanks. Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks. Bye.